Hi friends, how are ya? Welcome back to my channel for another just chit-chatty, heart-to-heart, kind of food for thought video. I wanted to switch things up a little bit, so I got one of the community rooms at my apartment. Feels kind of weird to be filming outside of my apartment, but keeping things fresh, maybe more echoey. I don't know, we'll see. But today, I kind of wanted to touch on the concept of growing up too quickly. And this kind of goes hand in hand with being a perfectionist or someone that lives for achievements. And these are all things that I see in myself and have noticed have kind of been my downfall. So I want to share my personal experiences, what I've learned, and then also some things that you guys have told me about your experiences with something similar. But I also just want to acknowledge that a lot of people are forced to grow up too quickly. And I'm not really talking about that in that video because I don't have experience with that realm of this topic. But I know that there's so many very hard, heavy things that children have to go through, whether it's, their parents going through a divorce or addiction or sad, scary things like abuse and maybe having a high needs sibling, all sorts of things that I read from a lot of y'all's personal stories, which is so beyond your control. And if you were forced to grow up because of that, I'm so sorry. And my experiences are a different realm that I want to talk about when you try to grow up too quickly because you want to achieve. You want to check those boxes. And that was definitely me. So let me just give you a little background and backstory on my life in case you're not familiar here, but I don't know if y'all care about Enneagram or not. I am a classic 3, someone that cares about achievement. And I'm one that always has thought that I was beyond my years in a way that would make me impressive to adults. I didn't really care about my peers, funny enough, but I remember being a kid being like, oh, I don't play pretend with the kids. I sit and I talk with the adults, which is so annoying in hindsight, but that was my personality as a child. And I very much carried that into high school and college and beyond. And I was so obsessed with achieving and with getting to the next thing so that I could get ahead on life that I rushed absolutely everything that I did. High school, I graduated high school early, and instead of taking that year off between senior year and college, I decided to get ahead for college by taking college classes online and working a job. And then college, I graduated college early. I did it as quickly as possible and graduated early to get married at 21. So that was the next box I wanted to check. I wanted to become married as quickly as possible, which if you followed my story at all the last year or two, you know that didn't work out, that ended in divorce. And I wanted to so quickly become my own boss that I hustled and worked, which I do think that there are some benefits to hard work, but I wanted to quit my serving job as quickly as possible and go out on my own and create my own work. And so I just rushed that and I hustled and I worked 80, 90-hour weeks and did not spend time with friends, did not really do a ton of fun things because I was so hyper-focused on this next goal and becoming a self-sufficient adult who could pay for her own life the way she wanted to without having to do the job she didn't enjoy. And I never found pleasure and enjoyment in the moment and in the season of life I was in. I was just so hyper fixated on what is the next thing? What do I need to do to become more self-sufficient, more successful? What's the next stop in the game of life for me to progress on this game board? You know what I mean? Spoiler alert too, throughout all of this, my health was rapidly declining. I was just getting more and more sick. I was also getting more and more stressed because nothing was ever enough. I could not take a pause and look at what I had achieved and be thankful for it. I could only look at the future and see what I hadn't achieved yet and all the areas I was lacking and needed to be better in. And that's a lot of stress to put on yourself. And I think that stress that I was putting on myself, and then also just the environmental stress of me rushing into a marriage that wasn't healthy, caused me to really get more and more sick. I was diagnosed with several things: lupus, celiac disease, EDS, and these were all autoimmune things that are flared by stress. So by the very nature of me putting this pressure on myself to grow up, I was making myself sick and I was not enjoying life at all, and life was going by quicker and quicker. And I think it took me going through something very hard, a forced reset, if you will, of going through a divorce and relocating my whole life and figuring out everything pretty much from scratch. I got to keep my same job, which I'm so thankful because it's my favorite thing in the world. But that forced reset really put a lot of things into perspective. And for the first time in my life, I was not capable of trying to hold myself to these perfect standards. And all of the adult checklists that I thought I had accomplished were pretty much taken away from me. I was no longer married. I was no longer living in a house. I was no longer doing all these things that I had dreamed of doing. I was kind of back at square one in a sense. Single, living in an apartment. Most of my savings were now gone. I was kind of back at square one. And I think that that was exactly what I needed to see all of the areas that I was so unhealthy. So that's my backstory, and I'm going to get into what I learned from that. First, there is nothing wrong with taking your time. In fact, it's beautiful to take your time to figure things out. Think about it in terms of like a nature walk. If you're going to go take a nature walk around a beautiful botanical garden and you speed walk through it, do you think you're going to enjoy it? What is the prize at the end? Congratulations, you walked through that botanical garden in 10 minutes. If you can take your time and like enjoy where you are, figure things out, I think it's so much more fulfilling and beautiful, and you can see the details that make life worth living. And that's something that has hit me hard. Speaking of life being fulfilling, it is so much more deeply fulfilling when you just be. When you just exist instead of focus on achievements. I know that gratitude is a huge part of overall, honestly, mental health and well-being, at least for me. And when I'm just being, I am so much more grateful than when I'm looking at all the things that I haven't done well enough or need to do better or need to check off my list, if that makes sense. I've learned to not be so hyper-focused on what is next for me. I think it's good to have dreams, but when they are, I feel like I've said something similar to this before, when they're phrased as hopes and dreams as opposed to goals that if you don't accomplish, you're a failure, it is more gratifying to work towards them, because you're like, wouldn't it be awesome if this worked out, instead of if this doesn't work out, I am an absolute failure. That's kind of my new approach to life. Currently, at the time of filming this video, I'm 25. That is young. I have been acting 35 since I was 16, and I realize that I won't ever get this time back. You don't have to act older than your age. You don't have to act your age. You don't have to act any way just to like impress other people, fit in with society. I recognize that I won't get this time back. I won't get this phase of life back. So there's been some things lately that I've been challenging myself to do that previous me would have been like, no, that is not responsible. You need to be a responsible adult. You need to save for a house. And instead I'm like, you know what? Instead of putting all this money aside to save for a house, I'm gonna put half of it aside and take half of it to go do a solo trip by myself, because one day I'm gonna have kids and I'm gonna have a husband and I'm gonna have a mortgage, and it's gonna be significantly more difficult to do this. And in this phase of life, I'm gonna dive into it. I'm going to be not reckless, but not 100% responsible, putting pressure on myself to do everything correctly to set myself up for the perfect future. Because so what if my future is perfect if I'm not enjoying my present? That can just be with like, should I work an extra hour today to get ahead? Or should I take that hour and call up a friend and take a walk with that friend, and I can get to that extra hour of work tomorrow? That whole mentality is what I'm trying to adopt, because I'm not going to get this phase of life back, and the future, it's so cheesy, is not guaranteed. So I'm not going to put all of my stress in making sure the future is perfect and sacrificing my now in the process. Also, the more that I take time to invest in myself and learn myself, the more I learn what I actually want. And actually that ends up being more efficient in the long run anyways. To not rush decisions now and rush life choices now is going to save me a lot of hurt, heartbreak, and just, what is it called? Regret. Like if I were to have done that with my last relationship, I would have saved a lot of hurt and a lot of years if I just, in the beginning, took it slower, learned myself, figured out what I actually wanted, and honestly assessed me, my personality, and what I wanted for my life, instead of saying, no, I need to accomplish this, I'm gonna rush right into it. And lastly, I think I've learned that life isn't so serious all the time. There's so many serious things in life that happen to you that we don't need to go seeking out additional heavy, serious things. if you have an opportunity to experience lightness and goofiness and silliness and all the things that make life so fun, I'm gonna take it. I'm going to dive into that because that is a gift, because there are heavy, serious seasons completely out of your control. So why put more of those on myself? So I think I've learned that for me, growing up too fast was also being serious when I didn't need to be serious. And it's been nice to allow myself to just be a little more carefree, a little goofier, if you will. There was a lot of amazing things y'all said, a lot of kind of overarching themes, and I just want to read out a couple of these. These are from everyone's own personal experiences. These are food for thought. You know, everyone has their own truths behind them. This person said, I was a box checker, degree, wife, house, baby. After I checked all the boxes, I realized that I wish I would have taken my time. That is true. I have actually had this conversation before with friends that I feel like we live in a society that has milestones all the way up until we're like 21, where every single year you graduate, you move to the next grade, and then there's milestones of, you know, everybody gets their license at 16, everybody has prom, everybody graduates high school at the same time, and it's built in that there's these milestones. And then you graduate college and it's like the Wild West. And I think that we're so used to having these steps and these milestones that we're like, whoa, now it's just all on our free time. Like, we're on our own now. I'm not used to this. So it's really easy to fall into that box checking mentality because that's what we've done our whole lives up until this point. So for me, it's been helpful to break that mental cycle of like, every year you need to check another box, have another accomplishment. After, you know, you're out in school and you're in the real world and it's the Wild West, you can do things whenever you want. No one's telling you have to do it at a certain timeline. This person said, having a relationship too early and looking for affection in the wrong place. That is something that I have struggled with too, or I'm learning still to be fully content by myself so that I don't need to rush into a relationship for affection. And that's a hard lesson to learn. Jumping into an internship right after college, I saw that one recurring a lot. I do want to say that like a lot of people said they regretted just taking the first job that they were offered. And I know that it is a privilege to not take the first job you're offered. We have bills to pay, we have to live, we have to survive. But I did think it was very interesting that that's an overarching theme of people being like, I rushed the intern process, I rushed the job hunting process, and now I feel stuck in something that I don't enjoy. I thought that was interesting. This is interesting. I think the way I phrased it on my Instagram was there a time where you recognized you were trying to grow up too fast? What did you learn? Where did it get you? Whatever. And this person said, I wish I didn't think that I knew more than my parents growing up. I could see that in myself as well, to be honest. And sometimes a lot of kids do know more than their parents. But at least for me, the themes of my life, my parents usually knew what they were talking about. And I do also wish I'd listened to them a lot more. This one is very vulnerable, and I really appreciate the person that submitted this and said, I would never say this to anyone in real life, but having my children too young, I wish I had more time to heal and grow. I know there's a lot of surprise pregnancies, but I could also see babies are adorable. Kids are so fun. And there was quite a few people that said I wanted that so bad that I rushed into it. And that's a lifelong commitment, and I wish I had taken my time. So thank you for telling me that so that I can keep that in mind with my timeline of my life too, because babies are freaking cute. I could see how it would be easy to rush into that too. Lastly, this is a little bit of a longer one that I wrote down. Said, I have essentially been an adult since age 12 because of family trauma, and it's made me take things so seriously. I felt that I needed to be responsible, and I missed out on being a kid. I was so stressed. Now as an adult, I try to do things for my inner child, like goofy things and not taking everything so seriously. And I love the idea, I've seen this, I feel, pop up more and more on social media of like nurturing your inner child or feeding your inner child. And I want to implement that more into my life too, because that inner child is always going to be within all of us. And I don't know why we feel the need to let go of it as we age. When I tried to take full control of my life and when I tried to do everything perfectly, that's when it all fell apart. And I have found that my life typically goes overall better when I am not trying so dang hard to do everything quickly and perfectly and efficiently. And the journey is actually more fulfilling in the long run anyways. I enjoy my day-to-day a lot more since letting go of that need to be perfect and to be such an adult, if that makes sense. So this is just something that's been on my heart something that I've been kind of working through in this new phase of life as I continue to grow and learn myself and hopefully become a better version of myself day by day by day. And I wanted to try my best to put it into words and also hear y'all's perspective as well, because I always learn so much from you. Like I said, I know there's so many different perspectives and so many different things that cause you to grow up that are out of your control. And if that has happened to you, I'm sorry. But if you find some similarities into my life of like, I put this pressure on myself for no good reason, then I hope this gave you some encouragement to just let loose, have a little bit of fun. You know what? Things might actually work out better that way. Who knows? It's an experiment. I'll see. I'll be the lab rat for you. I love y'all. Thanks for spending the day with me, taking the time, and just hanging out and having a chat in this new space. What do we think? I feel like the lighting is a little weird in here, but it's fun to switch it up. Okay, I hope you have the best rest of your day, and I'll see you in a video very soon. Bye.
So give me a sign. Give me a sign. Oh, give me a sign. Baby, give me a sign. Just give me one more talking to you. Here we go again, staying up all night to see if you've been texting me. Where do we go from here?